Hi everyone, this is French Vinyl Addict on another vinyl haul video, and yeah, in this episode I will be covering actually the latest finds, the purchases I made last or this summer. You know, I have some VC friends who claim summer is not over, so yes, summer is not over. We are like early September, weather is simply gorgeous, the best time if you want to take a trip once in over here in Eastern Canada. This is really crazy. It's not that hot, that humid, sticky and sweaty as it used to be like last month, for instance. So yeah, I am covering, as I said, all the stuff I found, received, bought, mainly Toronto. This I will be probably doing episode 1 and part 1, part 2, since I do have lots of records. So yeah, in this video, how about covering the Toronto meetup with Brian and Brian Robot. Always a pleasure to meet up with my local Canadian VC friend, and this time David Atkinson came over. Yeah, not last month. It was mid-July. Yeah, I missed, and I'm really still sorry about that. I missed the big party, the big event, the big VC meetup held at this year in Buffalo. MGK's Boston in Buffalo. Yeah, but yeah, I was lucky. I could take a trip to Toronto to spend a couple of days, and I could meet with the record hound. Yeah, he came over. Was a pleasure, and yeah, David Atkinson. So what I'm gonna do today is showing the records he brought, since I received some very cool VCLTs from David Atkinson's. I had purchased some stuff online from the UK, and I found some treasures. You know, Toronto is a great city, always to catch good stuff. So yeah, we for those who follow Brian's and David's channel, you may already have noticed a couple of weeks ago these gentlemen they posted some travelogue. So our day out has been documented fully, and so you already know about that. I won't be getting back to this event. So yeah, starting with the first one of the batch. So this is all first of all, I'm gonna covering the purchases I made online. So Flashback Records in London, always interesting. They do have some great stuff, mainly US or UK pressing. Sorry. The reason why I'm always on the lookout for certain of their items sold there. And as you may have noticed, one of the current rabbit hole I am delving into, folk music, English folk, not only English but folk music in generally. And we did host last week on this very channel with my best folk buddy Mike Vinyl Spiral, a folk stream. And yeah, it was really nice. We are planning on doing several other episodes, so every once in a while, probably once a month, we shall see. So yeah, one of the very first album I'm going to show you today is this one. This is Incredible String Band, and a really interesting copy, as this is a fourth album, the Big Huge, and I know it has been released back in the days as a double album, Weetam, and it has two names in two discs. So Weetam and the Big Huge. This is only the Big Huge record, so the second record, I think. As odd as it may sound, this is a UK pressing released on the Elektra label. Joe Boyd, just for the record, he was the one who secured the record deal with these guys. He plays so much of an importance back in days, Mr. Joe Boyd, with Fairport Convention, UFO Club, and with these guys, two guys from Glasgow, the entourage of Bert Jensch. Yeah, I think Clive, Robin Williamson was the roommate with Bert Jensch at the very beginning. And yeah, what these guys brought to the table is pretty interesting to the folk music when you think about that. They took several trips to Afghanistan, to Morocco, trying to catch the essence as David Graham already done in the past, and they're combining with traditional folk music. So you have sitar, you have traditional English folk music. This was a massive source of inspiration for a lot of folk musicians even French folk stuff. They try to do the revival, try to grasp, to have this inspiration by these guys. So this is the 4th album, the big huge, as I said. So really cool to find this copy, and the price was very like reasonable. So didn't pay that much, even though we are talking of OJ Press. The next one I'm going to show you is is something very interesting. I have completely overlooked Talking Heads back catalog, to be honest with you guys. So which I am now rediscovering through discussions we have daily. I do have daily with Fred or other VC members. And so this is a project or a side project. David Byrne, leader and singer of Talking Heads, of course. An 81, a soundtrack which was composed for not for a movie, for a ballet, I think, for a show. And it really got this Talking Heads element. He was massively inspired, which is incredibly interesting in this era. I think if you remember Remain in Light, for instance, collaboration with Brian Eno. He had made also several albums with Brian Eno, David Byrne, and all the Afro funk influence. So I could only recommend, if you are a nerd or a Talking Head nerds and you don't know about David Byrne's side project. Of course, you know about the Last Emperor, which he composed with Ryuichi Sakamoto later, but this one, and I think it has been released on the last record store day. I think I saw numerous of new copies. So pretty, and this is an OG, but very affordable. Next one is something exotic. This is music from India. And what I liked about this record, this is a soundtrack of a movie which I'm not aware of. Never watched that movies, but I went online and listened to a couple of tracks, and it's really interesting since it has this potpourri of all the influences, Oriental, but they also try to do the most Western music in a way. And on side 2, there is this funk, early 80s funk. You have this feeling. They try to have several genres to match maybe the scene or the footage. No, but it's really cool. Indian music, Indian soundtracks, 1981. The next one is something I've been talking lately about Maloya, the genre from La Réunion, this remote territory, France, little island in the Indian Ocean, close to Madagascar. This is not from there, but very close, Seychelles, and you can tell, all this influence, this Kayam, but this, influence these guys. So Patrick Victor, En Transition, that's the name of the album, from Seychelles. So very close to Madagascar and to La Réunion as well. So folk music with some very this kind same of rhythm as Maloya, electric Maloya, with some melancholic in a way, almost prog, almost progressive pop from there, I would call. So really interesting as well. Patrick Victor, it's lots of great stuff. I could spend a whole lifetime just trying to discover all what was happening outside of France, but which has a connection to France in a way, because he sings in French. And the next one is something I'm really proud. I'm really glad I could find. And I know Patrick, the guy from Pflegenfall. This is a German guy, fellow member of the German vinyl community. Lately I was on a German stream, Guido, and he was commenting on the chat. Talking about myself, that I find some great treasure, great gems from the folk, and those are usually hard to find, or at least at a decent price. But I can tell you, Patrick, some stuff you can really find at a reasonable price, and this is no exception. This is an album, as I said, this is Bert Jensch. I don't know how to pronounce. I saw You know, he came from Scotland, as you know. I saw Jack the Vinyl Voyage. He mentioned his guy pronunciation. He pronounced Gench, so I could pronounce Gench. I think originally the family came from Germany while back ago, so probably you have to say Gench. But anyway, not very interesting. Debut album, very bluesy. A couple of years before, he formed not Fairport Convention, Pentangle with John Renburn, which he also made an album, a couple of albums like solo before. Having this success didn't last long, 7 years I think, Pentangle, but a couple of years before he was very like into blues. Brownie McGee was one of his idol, I think, which he finally got to meet in '92, years before Brownie McGee passed away. So yeah, you can feel all this blues influence, the folk, the technicity, virtuosity he had. This is and with a very beautiful version of NG, composed by Davy Graham, as you all know, which was a massive hit because of the Simon and Garfunkel version of their albums when Paul Simon took his trip over here in the UK. So yeah, this is an OG press, one of the early. I think one of the early. The design is a little bit different. So this is I think the year after, but who cares? Very hard, thick disc, as you can tell from the 60s on the beautiful Transatlantic label. Pentangle were also there, and so an essential record for whoever wants to dive into the folk, the revival of the folk music. And yeah, we are discussing about that with my buddy Mike Vinyl Spiral once again. The contribution these young lads they had back in the days. Combining the folk of their repertoire, which was in their DNA because they were from the UK. I think they were from the UK, yes. And with other, we're talking about the incredible string band. They took more psych stuff, acid folk, as we could call the blues. Some took the jazz, which they made a couple of years after with Pentangle. So a very nice rabbit hole. And another, on to the next with some classic, with some Judy Driscoll, Brian Auger opened the album from '68. An OG press, which I didn't pay much for, I think a couple of tens of dollars, something very, very reasonable on the Marmalade label. Sorry for that, my English faults. So really interesting as well. The Brian Auger, killer on organ. This is interesting. On side one, you have all this, and this is a perfect example once again of the swing London '60s, as probably albums like Donovan, Hurdy-Gurdy, which is a collage. You can find all this influence they had back in the day. This is no exception. It has this, this soulish rhythm and blues. We even have some Afro beat, Afro funk. The last track on side one, and on side two, this is where Judy Driscoll comes in play. The traditional, soulish rhythm and blues, pop, late '60s. So really, really cool. Really enjoy this record. So. Fred already gave me the greatest hits. I think if you watched the previous video I posted on this channel, you know what I'm talking about. Moving on with a very interesting batch of the VCLT'S, with an S, several records. David Atkinson, very nice, very cool. We had a fantastic day out with the Record Hound, with Brian. We went to we visited a couple of record stores in Toronto, and he also brought me from the UK some really cool album. We had a chit chat, a discussion prior his coming over here, and he knew that I was on the lookout for some stuff. And so once again, David, thank you very much. He brought me a couple of records, so those are classics and less known. But it's not bad to talk about music on this channel. So yeah, starting with a classic which I didn't have, at least on vinyl. I used to have this on CD, of course. I was massively into Depeche Mode when I was like 20, 22, back in the days. I saw them in 2009 live, you know, where they were in Nancy, I remember, yeah. And yeah, I was massively into this kind of stuff. So this is a Violator, the classic album. This is a late 80s product released the early 1990, March 1990, I think, in the UK, but recorded mastered December or November 89. So yeah, great album. I don't have to talk about that too much, but this is a quintessence of the new wave. As you all know, they were at the climax, I think, back in the days. So Violator, Depeche Mode, yeah, with the French accent. Another interesting album I wasn't really aware of. We had this discussion with Fred, and this is the Associates, and this is the album called Silk, and this is like very arty. It reminds me a little bit of what could have been the following career of not Brodsky Beat, but Soft Cell, you know, with a very high pitched voice and some influence from the old classical music with harpsichord, but like synth pop. You know, these guys, they had this sense of pop. Imagine. So didn't have a great career, I think, after or a major hit, but very cool album. So the Associates, Silk. Moving on with great VCLTs, as I said. Moving on with an album, and it started with a discussion we had on this channel when I was like hosting a live stream with Fred, with Santi and Jose. Yeah, we were talking about Japan, the band David Sylvian, and so I just got interested and went online, listened to a couple of songs, and this is their second album. Gentlemen Take Polaroids. It's probably the first album. The second one. So two major elements. David Sylvian's voice, which is very like distinctive, and the bass line, incredible bass line. Mike Harn plays fret bass line with some very like smooth texture that shapes the music, like it's like ambient. You can tell jazz has been a major influence for this guy, and this Chinese maybe influence a little bit more. That's the difference when compared to the first album. So very, very cool, very quiet, very peaceful, but well structured. So Japan, Tin Drum, their second album. And another album which is interesting, since Richard S. or Richard's Vinyl Tapes House talk about this one. It has lately been re-released as a box set, I think. So this is an OG press from 81 or 82 something, 82, yeah. A UK press, and David Atkinson's favorite album, so How a Symbol, yeah. Bruce Springsteen, Nebraska. I'm not a Springsteen nerd, but this is interesting. David Atkinson already made a video about this one. I think this is David's favorite Springsteen album, if I'm not mistaken. The one he made before or between The River and Born to the USA, folk. You can see the folk tag, and not as, you know, as with all that power, that instrumentation. No E Street Band, no really powerful, more the stuff. I think he played all the instrument, harpsichord, guitar, synthesizer, glockenspiel. I think all of it himself. You can tell by the cover. This is something. Maybe went away from the craziness after the River tour. Made an albums like Back to the Roots, composing songs for the Blue Collar Guys, which he already have done. You listen to songs like The River, you know, it talks about that this young couple, they had no money, they get married. So this is probably the following stuff, but like more like, as I said, more folk. Reminds me a little bit, not the album, but the concept, like Paul McCartney, you know, when he recorded his debut album in his farm in Scotland, probably the same concept. So Nebraska, Bruce Springsteen, a very nice discovery. And an album, I already have a copy, but my copy was a little bit poor. So he gave me a great copy. Now I have a UK press OG of this incredible album I already have talked about on this channel. So I won't be spending 2 hours, my favorite Echo and the Bunnymen records. Okay, it doesn't have this major hit like The Killing Moon, but as an ensemble it works. Fantastic. I never get tired of this one. An 81, everything is perfectly balanced. The atmosphere, the voice, Ian McCulloch's voice, and gloomy, dark, and I can only recommend. So thank you very much, David. You're the man. You made my day. Great records. Moving on with the records I bought. I purchased with David and with Brian. As I said, we were in Toronto. We visited mainly 2 places. The one was Sonic Boom, the must-go place, the biggest store they have down there in Toronto, and then we went to rotate this. So I found some stuff really interesting. I really like their world music, their South American section, and Sonic Boom, decent section. As I said, I found some stuff I barely had a chance to find over here in Montreal or online. So and starting with we were talking about Maloya. So an album recommended to me by my friend Fred, and if you watch this channel, I already showed the comp, the Ote Maloya comp, and he was a figure, so to say. This is Alain Peters. This is an album released, don't know when, but this is a reissue on the Bongo Joe label, and Bongo Joe, that's not Mr. Bongo. Bongo Joe is a Swiss-based label. So this guy was, as I said, was a torture artist. He sadly passed away with no money. He had some problems with drinking, for instance. But what an influence he had when these guys created the electric Maloya back in the 70s. They were all like ballroom, playing in ballroom, raised with classic rock, but created something that they had in their DNA. La Réunion, this amazing place, tiny little island, as I said, combining influence from the African workers from India. They came, his family at least, came from France, but they were all born, in this little island, talking, singing in dialect, Creole, French, and with this Kayam, music. So this is mainly another comp, of his famous songs. So could only recommend if you are into this kind of Maloya stuff. So Alain Peters. And we were just talking about Mr. Bongo, which is a perfect transition since this one. This is another, Mr. Bongo. I have yet to be disappointed when it comes to release of Mr. Bongo. I do have some, already have purchased a couple of their reissues, the MPB, the Brazilian stuff. And this is something more space jazz. If you remember, I talked about an Australian band called My Life. Reminds me a little bit of My Life, which is probably not a good point of comparison, but I try my best. And so Soyuz, early 70s. As I said, very very quiet, very ambient. I was expecting something more a la bossa nova, a little bit like with upbeat, but it's not. But still a very 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 cool record. Soyuz, Force of the Wind, really interesting. So how about that? The next one is some record I bought at still in Sonic Boom. I found David Sylvian's solo debut album. So we were just talking about Japan, recording in 83, 84. And so it has these elements, but it goes a little bit further in the avant-garde. I mean, The bass line, you know, is still present, but there is this guy Wayne Braithwaite, and Danny Thompson plays double bass. And very interesting, worth of mention, the participation of Holger Schukai from Cannes. They will be doing other collaboration together, but yeah, so still very arty, you know, his distinctive voice with some smooth jazz influenced pop, a very arty structure. I can only recommend, and you find these records for near to nothing, so worth a try. So brilliant Tears, David Sylvian. Moving on with some gothic, post-punk gothic, yeah. Just for the record, I think the leader was befriended with Bono from U2. So yeah, Virgin Prunes, If I Die in '84 records, you know, in the same vein as Not Ministry, Sisters of Mercy, you know, if you wanna compare. So yeah, really glad I could find this is a UK press as well. So if you are in this kind of stuff, and I know Brian you are, so worth checking out. Then we went to Rotate This in Ossington, Bellwood, Trinity Bellwood, a very cool neighborhood, by the way. We stopped for 1 hour or something, and I found some stuff wasn't really prepared for. Since I've been on the lookout for this album, and lots of my friends they love John Martin. Yeah, they were saying to me that this one is pretty much hard to find, and I found. So pretty glad. This is John Martin live at Leeds. This is not a bootleg. This is the OG UK pressing released on the Island label. Once again, it looks like a bootleg, but it's clearly not a bootleg. Even though, you know, the design of the label made you may think it's not an official. So yeah, John Martin, another great contributor to the revival of the folk music in the UK. This one is very interesting. As I said, live at Leeds, he was adding the effect with the correct machine, which is usually used with the electric guitar, but he uses as his full guitar, and plays with Danny Thompson. Really like folk jazz, and with this like echo elements. Really interesting, John Martin. And finishing off with a classic, with the Human League Reproduction debut album, as they were still a band from they are still a band from Sheffield, creating this industrial sound. There is the third album, which is like very pop. They were to another direction. In this one, yes, Martin Ware were still part of the band. Obviously, this is the debut, so it already has this some. I was listening to this album earlier this morning. It already has this distinctive signature Phil Oakley voice gimmick and some pattern, but it's a little bit more avant-garde-ish as a true pop album, but still interesting. This is also UK press. Not rare to stumble upon UK pressing in Toronto. I already made the experience. So let's stop for today. Next batch in the next episode. Hope you like it. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for next chapter. Bye bye.